Hello, this is Paul Hoyt. Welcome to today's VetHelpVet Productivity Workshop. As we get started, first a little housekeeping. You should have a worksheet to complete during this workshop. Just click on the link and download it. We're going to take breaks periodically to allow you to complete each section of the workshop and to be able to ask questions. You'll be able to ask those questions during the workshop, and then we'll handle them at the breaks and at the end. The instructions on how to ask your questions will be on the worksheet, so if you haven't done that already, please download it now. The information that we're going to deliver today is based on the Awakened CEO system, which is a balanced and comprehensive approach to business growth on multiple levels. In our last workshop, we talked about the Awakened CEO growth process and how it's important to establish your vision, determine your status, create a growth plan that takes you from where you are to where you want to be, gather the necessary resources, and then execute. Execution is of utmost importance. You have to do the work. You have to be tenacious and resourceful, and you have to do whatever it takes to win. Because execution is 95% of success. So it just stands to reason that the more productive you are, the better you are able to execute. Let's talk about that word productivity. There's actually three aspects of getting stuff done. The first is productivity, the second is efficiency, and the third is effectiveness. First, some definitions. Productivity is the ability to generate, create, enhance, or bring forth goods and services. Efficiency is a measurable concept, quantitatively determined by the ratio of output to input. And effectiveness is a non-quantitative concept, mainly concerned with achieving objectives. Let me give you some examples. If you are running marketing campaigns, you are more productive if you execute 4 marketing campaigns a month instead of 3. You are more efficient if you execute a campaign in 20 hours instead of 30 hours. And you are more effective if your campaigns produce better results. Another way of saying that is productivity is doing more things, efficiency is doing things right, and effectiveness is doing the right things. But I'm going to stick with the word productive today during this workshop and occasionally talk about efficiency and effectiveness. But I think it's important for you to think about productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness when you think about getting stuff done. There are 2 different levels of productivity we're going to talk about today in 2 different sections to our workshop. In the first section, we're going to talk about organizational productivity. Then we're going to take a break and we're going to talk about personal productivity. When it comes to organizational productivity, we're going to talk about 5 different things that you can focus on to help make your organization more productive. We're going to talk about communicating the passion, communicating your plan, ensuring alignment throughout your organization, streamlining your systems, and maintaining your focus. First, communicate the passion. If you haven't done so already, I strongly recommend that you look up Simon Sinek's TED Talk on Start With Why, how great leaders inspire everyone to take action. When I looked at it this morning, it had had 42 million views. So if you haven't done so already, by all means take a look at that. In this workshop, he talks passionately and very effectively about why people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And your goal in sales isn't to sell to people who need what you have, it is to sell to people who believe what you believe. He talks about how important it is to be very clear about the why of your company, because people need to know why in order to buy in. He talks about how it's important to be disciplined in your how, which enables you to hold people accountable and allows you to scale. And he talks about how important it is to be consistent in what you do and focus on the results in your organization. Because when passion is communicated, people will say, we know who you are and we know what you stand for. They will understand you and your organization at a gut level. And there will be no confusion in their minds to cause any hesitation. They will want to help you, and that's what we really want. We want you to communicate the passion, the why of your organization, and to be passionate about that so that people will buy into that. They will believe in you and they will believe in the cause of the company so that they will want to help. It's also very important for you when it comes to productivity to communicate the plan. to ensure that everyone understands the high-level goals and growth plans of the company, because they have to know where you are going and how you plan to get there in order to do their part. And having a good plan inspires confidence. People don't want to follow a plan if they don't think it's going to be successful. The more clear you are in communicating the plan, the more likely they will see it as possible, and they will want to jump in so that they can be a part of a winning team. The third aspect of organizational productivity is to ensure alignment, to delegate and apportion sections of the plan as appropriate throughout the layers of your organization, so that you can plan at each layer in the organization and then pass all of those goals up the chain to ensure consistency. That's an important part. It's not only important to drive the goals and the planning process down through the layers of the organization, but it's important to also communicate those plans and goals back up through the layers of the organization so that those people who are in a position to know can check to see whether or not the goals are consistent across the different departments and functions of the company. The fourth way to improve organizational efficiency and productivity is to streamline your systems. Systems need to be updated as technology changes. The systems that consume the most resources are the ones that need to be updated and improved the most often. And the 80-20 rule almost always applies. And that means that 20% of your systems will be consuming 80% or more of your available resources. Most large companies have continuous process improvement programs in place to make sure that they are not only taking a look at those important systems once every 3 or 6 or 9 months, that they're taking a look at those systems every single day and finding ways to save a minute here, save a minute there, because in large organization, those minutes can add up to hours and weeks and can add up to real money. The fifth and the last way to improve organizational productivity is to maintain your focus, and that means primarily finding ways to measure results. The most important thing to remember here is Pearson's Law, which has 2 parts. The first part says, when performance is measured, performance improves, and the second part is that when performance is measured and reported back, the rate of improvement accelerates. So if you want to improve the operational effectiveness of your organization and the efficiency with which you consume your resources, it is critical that you measure your performance. And it is critical that you report those measurements back up through the organization. To maintain focus, we measure our results, and then we have staff meetings to discuss those results. We also have one-on-one meetings to make sure that people stay on track and know that they are personally accountable to helping the company achieve their goals. We set goals and we set stretch goals, and we have performance reviews. And with those performance reviews, we have rewards and consequences. Beyond the rewards and consequences of traditional performance reviews, I also want you to think about gamification. As it turns out, gamification is one of the most important ways of increasing the productivity of a company. Gamification has several different aspects: points, badges, leaderboards, levels, rewards, and bonuses are the traditional things that you find in games today. And more people in your organization will have grown up playing games on computers that combine all of these different elements. That's what they're used to. They want to know that they can win, and it's up to you to create a system that allows them to win. And so those are the 5 different ways that you can increase your organization's productivity. Communicate the passion, the why behind what it is that you want to accomplish and how you intend to do that. Communicate the plan so that everybody understands exactly how they can help with the organization. Put systems in place to ensure alignment throughout your organization. Streamline your key systems and maintain your focus, especially through gamification. We're going to take a break now that allows you to complete the different sections on your worksheet. Answer the questions and then take just a few minutes to record your strengths and weaknesses for each one of these different suggestions about how you might increase organizational productivity, and make some notes on the next steps that you might have. And during this break, we're going to pause and answer a few questions that you might have. Again, the instructions on how you might ask questions are on the worksheet. So ask your questions and we'll be happy to answer them. And then after the break, we'll come back and we'll talk about ways of increasing personal productivity. Welcome back. We talked about organizational productivity in the first part of our presentation. Now let's turn our attention to personal productivity. As it turns out, there are a lot of ways to be more productive, efficient, and effective. I've found dozens of them throughout my career, and I want to share 7 of them with you right now. The first one is awareness. We're going to talk about prioritizing, scheduling, the level of effort that you put in, your environment, your physical condition, and like with organizational productivity, we'll talk about maintaining focus. First, awareness. Being aware of how you're spending your time is the key to being more productive. One of the traditional ways is logging your time, getting a simple spreadsheet or a columnar pad, and keeping track of how much time you're spending on a variety of tasks throughout the day. How much time are you spending in meetings? How much time are you spending focusing on sales? How much time on marketing? How much time on delivering goods and services to your customer, etc.? Usually, whenever you do that kind of exercise, there is some sort of insight and you discover how you're investing your precious time. You also find out in that process how you are hesitating or procrastinating. It's important for you to be brutally honest about the ways you are wasting your time, finding those time vampires so that you can isolate them and eliminate them. Finding out the things that you do poorly, things that you thought you were only spending 10 minutes on, but you're really spending an hour on. And finding out the things that scares you, because as you begin to log your time moving from task to task, you become more aware of your own emotional condition. You become more self-aware as you become more time-aware. And that allows you to really understand ways in which you can improve your own productivity. Once you become aware of all of the things that you're doing, and you become aware of the ways in which you are investing your time, then you can begin to prioritize your tasks. First, you write them down and organize them, and then I recommend separating them into categories of must do, should do, and could do. Must do are the things that you have to do today because there's serious consequences if you don't. Should do are the things that you really should be doing today because if you don't get them done today, they become must do items for tomorrow. And the could do are the third priority, those things that you can put off for a while without any serious consequences. It's also important that you understand the nature of the tasks and differentiate between what is urgent and what is important. In their 1994 book, First Things First, Covey and Merrill introduced this matrix that shows the relationship between things that are urgent and things that are important. Things that are both urgent and important include a crying baby or a kitchen fire and some of the telephone calls you receive. Things that are neither important or urgent are things like busy work and other time wasters, maybe even social media. I encourage you to focus your attention on the things in the upper right-hand corner too, because those are things which may not be urgent, but they are extremely important, like exercise and vocation planning. So when you prioritize your tasks, you organize your tasks, you understand which is the most important, you understand urgent versus important, and my encouragement to you is to do the tough things first, to make them your first priority. I remember working with a client many years ago who talked to me about one of his favorite tactics about being more productive, and that was to do the toughest thing that he could whenever he came in the morning. If that was having a tough conversation with an employee or calling a customer about a bill that they owed him, he made sure to do the toughest things first and make that the highest priority. And I encourage you to try that in your business as well. Once you have prioritized your tasks, then you can schedule it. And I think one of the biggest keys to productivity is making and keeping great appointments with yourself. That's right, treating yourself like you are your most important client, because really that you are. Block out time on your calendar to do the things that you know that you need to do, that are those must-do items, those things that are both urgent and important, so that you get them done without distraction. It's important for you to understand maker's time versus manager's time as well. You know, managers in companies have a tendency to work in 1-hour blocks or even half-hour blocks because that's when they schedule meetings, at the bottom of the hour or the top of the hour. Makers, however, the creative people, computer programmers, artists, writers, etc., they don't operate on half an hour or 1-hour blocks. They oftentimes need 3 or 4 or 6 hours at a time in order to be most productive in the creative process. And I encourage you to have time allocation goals that are on a weekly basis. Understand that every week you want to spend 10 hours on sales or 4 hours on marketing or only 20 hours in meetings, or you want to spend 5.5 hours being creative every single day. But have those time allocation goals, make great appointments with yourself, and then keep your commitments to yourself. And as you are doing that, increase the effort that you're putting into your business. Ramp up the energy and take massive action. That means both working longer hours and working more efficiently. And there's a couple of different approaches I'm going to recommend for that. The first one is the interval approach, which says that I'm going to work hard for 50 minutes and then I'm going to take a 10-minute break. And by the way, there's been studies that have shown that that is a remarkably effective way of being more productive. Working hard for 45 or 50 minutes and then taking a little break and then doing it again hour after hour after hour. Another technique that I find to be very handy for me is the marathon approach, and that is understanding that every day is like a marathon and establishing a pace in the early hours of the day that I can maintain for 12 or 14 or 16 hours. Because with a marathon, of course, you have to make sure that you are working at the right pace or running at the right pace so that you don't expend all your energy and run out at mile 23. One of the ways to ramp up your effort is to make sure that your environment is conducive to greater productivity. In some cases, that means turning on music or even turning on the TV or not, or turning off the music or turning off the TV. It may mean listening to inspirational songs or stories and talks to ramp up the energy and reconnect with your passion. Some people really like to have aromas. Peppermint and orange oil seem to really ramp up the productivity for some people. Some people like bright lights to be more productive. Other people like dim lights to be more productive. And it's always important to have ergonomic working conditions so that your posture is aligned correctly, so that your body can maximize the throughput of energy from the tips of the toes to the top of your head. It's also important to pay attention to your physical condition, to pay attention to hydration. Studies have shown that when people are thirsty, their brain function actually decreases. It's important to have judicious use of caffeine. For some people, that's 2 or 3 cups of coffee in the morning. For some people, it's no caffeine at all. And for most of us, it's just an appropriate amount of caffeine, because too much caffeine causes stress and actually causes us to be less productive over time. It's important to keep your blood sugar up with snacks. Sometimes breathing exercises can help us release tension and re-empower ourselves. It's important to do exercise during the day and as a long-term protocol to build up our long-term strength, and it's important to take re-energizing breaks. And don't forget about having proper rest. I know personally that I work a lot better if I have at least 7 hours of sleep a night. Some people can be very effective with only 4 or 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Other people may require a full 8 or 9 hours of sleep per night. What's important is that you pay attention to your own body and find out what level of sleep really contributes to your productivity. And the last category in maintaining personal productivity and increasing personal productivity is to maintain your focus. Keep the vision in your mind. Remember your why. One of the best ways to do that is visualization techniques. I went to a retreat a few years ago. They handed us each a big piece of paper, 2 feet by 18 inches, and said, draw the thing that really inspires you the most, the vision of who you are when you will be at your best, and then put this up on your wall and look at it every day. And I did that. And this is actually the drawing that I created. That's me on a stage with a lot of people in the audience, with a lot of money on the stage, wheelbarrows of money, in fact, and money flying to me. Being in the spotlight, being on stage in front of a lot of people inspires me. I love this. It inspires me every time I look at it. So create your own vision map. Create your own picture that inspires you and look at it periodically. Another great way to be more productive is to make sure you're connecting the task that you are working on right now to your vision of success. I remember hearing a story about a man who saw another man digging a ditch, a very big long ditch, and in very, very hot weather. He was working away and seemingly having a very good time, even though he was working in very undesirable conditions. When the first man asked him how he could be so happy, even though he was out sweating in the hot sun, he said, I'm really not digging a ditch today. I'm putting my kids through college." He had connected the task and success at that task to his long-term vision, to his self-esteem, to his self-image, and by that connection was able to empower himself enormously to do great work in the hot sun. You can do that too by connecting the task of the moment to your long-term vision of success. Sometimes we entrepreneurs work on too many things at the same time. So I'm a big fan of the 60-30-10 model. That says for whatever time frame that you want, for the next hour, for the next day, for the next week, only focus on 3 things and give the priority number 1 60% of your time and attention, priority 2 30% of your time and attention, and priority 3 10% of your time and attention. And when you are done with that particular period of time, then pick another 3 things, but only work on 3 things at once. And lastly, some people recommend that you only work on 1 thing at a time. When you are focusing on one of those priorities, don't allow yourselves to be distracted in any way. Don't allow yourself to be distracted with social media, with phone calls, with checking emails, etc. Make sure you're maintaining your focus so that you can be the most productive. Lastly, I'm going to say that gamification techniques not only apply to our organization, but they apply to us each individually as well. Points, badges, leaderboards, levels, rewards, and bonuses can be constructs that we can use to motivate ourselves. For example, whenever I have 10 minutes before the next phone call or 5 minutes before it's time to take a break, I oftentimes challenge myself to see how much I can get done in that period of time and then reward myself with a little mint or a little piece of chocolate or something else whenever I achieve my goal of being more productive. You can do that too. You can gamify your own productivity through establishing little goals and then rewarding yourself appropriately when you reach those goals. So that's it. To increase personal productivity, focus on being aware of how you're investing your time. Focus on prioritizing the tasks that you have in front of you and then creating a schedule that allows you to focus your time and energy. Focus on doing things to ramp up your level of effort. Control your environment to maximize your productivity. Make sure that your physical condition is optimal and do things to maintain your focus, especially gamifying your own approach to the tasks that lay in front of you. Your next steps are to focus on increasing productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness through applying all of these techniques that we've talked about. The most important, measure, measure, measure. Measure everything that you want to get better at, because as Pearson's law states, that which is measured improves, and that which is reported improves exponentially. And be sure to gamify your entire company and even gamify your own activities during the day so that you can use the power of gamification to your benefit. And then get outside support if you need it. We here at VetHelpVet would be honored to talk to you about how our services can help you facilitate your productivity at your company. That brings us to the end of part 2. And we're going to take a little break to answer questions on personal productivity or on organizational productivity right now. That's the end of our workshop for today. I want to thank you for your attendance and your kind attention. Here's wishing you every success in your business.